Jeremiah Masoli, pretty much a forgotten quarterback from the Chip Kelly days at Oregon. To many people, seems like the polar opposite of the greatest Oregon quarterback ever, Marcus Mariota. Mariota stands 6'4", Masoli 5'10". Mariota's got the whole Boy Scout thing going. Masoli was seen as the bad guy. Believe it or not though, besides playing quarterback at Oregon, these dudes had quite a few things in common. They're both part Samoan. They attended the same high school, obviously at different times. While they were in high school, they were both coached by QB coach Vinny Pizzag. And crazy enough, he actually described them as both being very similar. So then after high school, what changed in Masoli's life that sent him down such a different path from where Marcus Mariota ended up? Well, actually it all started before Masoli went to that high school in the first place. See, Jeremiah actually only attended that school for 1 year, and he was only there because he got expelled from his previous school for being involved in a robbery. Now this right here, what I'm about to give you, is a first-hand account of the robbery, and this comes from an American combat veteran who was twice deployed. Apparently he was with Masoli on the day of the robbery. He was actually the driver of the truck. Now this all happened way back in 2005, but the soldier, when given the interview, asked that his name and rank and everything not be disclosed. On that day, he was driving a truck with Masoli and 4 other guys. It was after their high school football off-season workout, and they pulled up to another high school to pick up one of their partners. Now when they pulled up, the cats in the back hopped out the truck. They walked over to a kid that was smaller than them and demanded he give them his wallet. Now Masoli's account of the situation matches the same exact thing that the soldier said. They both said that Masoli was sitting in the front passenger seat, and when the dudes got out the back of the truck, he was hesitant and he was the last one to get out the truck, but he did get out of the truck. But according to the juvenile records, they took little dude's wallet, man, and the wallet contained a whopping $10 and a Jumbo Juice card. Now I ain't gonna lie, the Jumbo Juice used to be good back in the day, but damn bro, like it ain't that damn good. Now the police records also indicate that Masoli was not the instigator in the situation and had no direct contact with the victim. Either way, they sentenced him to 3 months in a juvenile detention center, which he served. And that sucks, man. We know that depending on who you know in that situation or how much influence you may have, you probably get a slap on the wrist for that situation. But unfortunately, it didn't work out like that for Jeremiah. Now, in the police report, he shows major remorse, man. Police report actually states that Masoli wanted to speak with the victim just so he can apologize for his role in the situation. Now, that's the only situation that Jeremiah Masoli had as a teenager. So keep that in mind later in this video when we start talking about reports that state that Jeremiah was involved in a series of serious robberies as a teenager, because that's just not the facts. This dude was a 3.0 student. He had 3 marks on his school record, 2 tardies and a dress code violation. That's it. Either way, after that, Jeremiah's dad quit his job so he can move his son to another district and he can attend another school and get away from, you know, those negative influences. I mean, he had to drop everything, bro. He had to tap into his 401k. Like, that's a hell of a dad move. That should not be understated. I mean, he took a huge risk, man, and bet on his boy to give him another opportunity. And that's love right there. Fortunately, Jeremiah took advantage of the second chance. He went to his new high school, played well on the field, and stayed out of trouble. Now, a lot of players that we do these stories on leave high school and they're ranked in the top 2 or 3 at their position. They go to school and usually have early success. This wasn't quite the case with Jeremiah. He took the road less traveled. He ended up going the JUCO route. Now I don't want to skate through this because it does work out for some players, but it's tough to go the JUCO route, bro. I got uber talented friends that went the JUCO route. My brother went the JUCO route, and it's tough to get up out of there, man. It's so easy to get involved in whatever BS is going on around you. You got downgraded facilities, and if you get hurt, but if you take the starting job and put up 4,000 yards, 41 touchdowns, and win the championship, your chance is pretty good. That's exactly what Jeremiah Masoli did. His head coach George Royce said, "I never had a minute's trouble with the kid. He was my captain, he was on time, he was respectful, and he was a good student." Coach Rush is actually the one that sent Jeremiah's tape to Oregon in the first place. So that next year in 2008, Oregon signed Darren Thomas, Deion Jordan, LeGarrette Blount, Michael James, and Kiko Alonso. The lowest ranked recruit they signed? Jeremiah Masoli, a 2-star JUCO quarterback. So naturally, when Jeremiah walked in there, he was like 5th on the depth chart. But due to an unbelievable string of injuries, by week 4, Jeremiah Masoli was the starter. He put up a total of 2,400 yards and 23 touchdowns that year. His 714 rushing yards was a new Oregon record for quarterbacks, and he led Oregon to the Holiday Bowl and got a dub. As they often would in his life, things changed fast for Jeremiah. After starting the 2008 season 5th on the depth chart, he started the 2009 season on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Unfortunately, Oregon dropped the first game of the season, but the game wasn't the only thing that got dropped that week. After that though, Oregon went on a 7-game winning streak. 3 of the teams they beat was ranked in the top 25. 2 of those teams was ranked in the top 10. One of those teams was number 4 USC, who Oregon hadn't beaten like the last 3 years. Jeremiah was on top of the world. Everything was going great. But after that USC game, Jeremiah would take a blow from the very town that he was playing for, Eugene, Oregon. A local newspaper in Eugene ran a story that referenced Masoli's role in several strong-armed robberies as a teen. Now, like I pointed out earlier, Jeremiah Masoli was only involved in 1 robbery as a teen, and I gave you guys the details. The worst part about it, that newspaper right there in Eugene had lifted this article from a newspaper in San Francisco. Now, the newspaper in San Francisco had gone back and corrected their mistake, but this paper right here in Eugene, Oregon, refused to correct the mistake, and instead they told Jeremiah's family that Jeremiah needed to come to them to do an interview to clear the air. So basically they published an article that was inaccurate, completely ignored the facts, and then tried to use Jeremiah to drum up more publicity. That is so criminal and cold-blooded, bro. Criminal, bro. This paper in Eugene started a false narrative about Jeremiah Masoli that would most definitely contribute to how people saw him. And so when he ran into issues later, they already had this situation in their heads, but they didn't have the actual facts of the situation, because it might have changed the way they looked at it. Maybe it would, but just give me the facts and let me decide for myself. By the way, not to jump ahead in the story, but in 2010, the New York Times actually republished this same exact story and refused to correct it. Unbelievable. Anyway, after that original article was released in 2009, that 7-game win streak that Oregon was on came to an immediate end. Like, they legit lost the very next game. They ended up finishing that season 10-3, and they made it to the Rose Bowl but lost to Ohio State. Jeremiah put up 2,800 yards and 28 touchdowns. But a few weeks later, Jeremiah would find himself in trouble again. The report goes like this. A member of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon house returned home and witnessed Masoli and a teammate, Garrett Embry, leaving an area of the house near his room. When he realized the projector and 2 laptop computers were missing, he took chase. The victim chased down Embry, who returned the projector and subsequently reported the incident to the Eugene police. Police interviewed Masoli the next day, where he said he was not at the fraternity house. But on March 12, 2010, Masoli pleaded guilty to 2nd-degree burglary before a Lane County Circuit judge. Masoli was sentenced to 1 year probation and 140 hours of community service as a part of a plea agreement. This charge was later reduced to a misdemeanor. Oregon head coach Chip Kelly immediately suspended Masoli for the 2010 football season, which was his senior year, but he allowed Masoli to stay on the team because Masoli still had a redshirt year available. But unfortunately, a few months later, on June 7, 2010, Masoli was pulled over by Springfield police for a traffic violation. After inspection, Masoli was cited for driving with a suspended license, failure to stop, and possession of 1 ounce or less of marijuana. 2 days later, he was completely dismissed from the team for failure to adhere to obligations previously outlined. Now, all these situations Masoli found himself in were dumb. Really dumb. But on my channel, I like to get into the nuance of the situation, because everything's not always black and white. Most people don't have the capacity to break down complex situations, so they stick to name calling and stereotypes and stupid statements like he's guilty or he's not guilty. A person like me likes to understand exactly what happened. Doesn't make the player less guilty. Doesn't mean we're trying to make excuses. I just like to get the details. So here are as many details as I could find to try to better understand the situation. So this is the full story of what happened, like based on the reports that I could find. A key part of the Eugene Police Department's investigation into the burglary was the security footage from Taylor's Bar and Grill, which showed Masoli and his 21-year-old cousin, Tao Lafiti, entering the bar approximately 3 minutes after the victim of the burglary called the police. Both Masoli and his cousin recalled that as they were approaching the bar that night, they saw Embry, dude that actually did the stealing. He was standing outside of the SAE house flagging them down. When Masoli slowed, Embry said something like, "Come check this party out with me." Masoli says alright, then goes and parks the car. At this point, Masoli and his cousin split up. They decided that Masoli would go size up the frat party while his cousin would go peek inside the bar. They would then see which one was better, and that's where they would chill that night. Masoli says he walked behind Embry into the frat house. Embry opened the side door. They walk up a back stairwell. They go up a flight of stairs or two, and then there's a room just completely open. Masoli recalls loud music and a couple of drunk students sprawled in the hallway. One of those students was eyewitness, who was a member of the frat, Trevor Braun. He said he did see Masoli and Embry in the hallway around the time of the theft. Then Embry goes in his room and comes out with a projector. If this is true, then this is the exact same situation Masoli was in earlier in his life. So that statement plus a lot of this other stuff that I'm gonna read to y'all in a second makes it seem unlikely. And of course, I go into the situation wanting to believe Masoli, and I'm not saying that he's not telling the truth here, but you're gonna see in a minute, either he makes just a really horrible judgment call, or he's not giving us the full truth. He goes on to say, "Something about the situation told me to get out of there, but I walked right in front of Embry, didn't say one word, just walked right out of there." Embry followed Masoli into the stairwell with the projector hidden behind his hip, where they encountered the third eyewitness, dude named Wolford. Now this is the dude the projector and stuff actually belonged to. He then chases Embry down. This was 2010, projector was probably pretty heavy, and that's pretty much the account that Masoli gave. So according to Masoli, he was chilling. His partner tells him to come check out the frat house with him. They walk into a room. His partner picks up a projector. He never mentioned the laptop, so I don't know what's up with that. And it sounds like he shields him on the way out of there. From Masoli's point of view, this just seems so random that it's just hard to believe that that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? But again, that part is just my opinion. I don't know. So you're probably trying to figure out when Embry picks up this random projector, if Masoli got nothing to do, he know nothing about it, why he ain't like, yo, what the bro, what is you doing? Like, nah, you tripping, bro. And maybe there's peer pressure there. I don't know. But according to the accounts, Masoli and Embry wasn't even good friends. And people on the team confirmed this. Like, they didn't hang out. Maybe because Embry was on the team, Masoli felt like it was his job to ride with his teammate in the situation. That correlate with the first situation, and that might just be a code that he lived by. I don't know, I'm throwing stuff out. Now, when they interviewed the victim and they let him listen to Masoli's account, he was like, well, according to his account, he didn't steal anything. I'm not sure why he pleaded guilty. Chip Kelly, same thing. He couldn't figure out, like, why would he plead guilty? I got a couple reasons. Remember how Masoli showed remorse way back when he was a teenager, he was in that situation? Maybe he felt guilty. In this country, more than 90% of defendants take plea deals as opposed to going to trial. The legal system doesn't really care if you're guilty or not. They care about conviction rates. Masoli was told that if he accepted the plea deal, he would get probation and a fine, which is what he got. If he went to trial, he would take the risk of getting a 2 to 4 year sentence. So basically they scared him into plea deal, and that's how it goes. That's why 90% of people do it, because if you can guarantee a person no jail time versus taking a chance of having jail time, like, what would you do? You know what I'm saying? As far as Masoli's football career goes after that, he did go and sign with Ole Miss, and he played pretty well for them, well enough to get picked up by the 49ers the following year as an undrafted free agent. Unfortunately, that didn't last long, and he was released from the team. After that, he had a short stint in the UFL, and in 2012, he went over to the CFL. Now, most guys go to the CFL, play for a couple years, trying to get back into the league, and then end up, you know, doing something else after a couple years. Well, Jeremiah's been over there since 2012, and he's still there today. And he got off to an extremely slow start. But in 2016, he had an opportunity to be the starter, and he threw for 2,700 yards and 21 touchdowns. Then this past year in 2017, he put up a total of 3,500 yards, scored 19 touchdowns, and only had 5 picks. So he's doing his thing over there, making the best of it. And hopefully that fully answers the question of what happened to Jeremiah Masoli. Y'all let me know in the comment section what you think about his situation. Also, let me know who you want to see next. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I'm going to holler at you next time. FlemLo Raps, 1.